my eyes went black and everything disappeared. I thought about my past. I thought about my mother, and that didn't make it better. And it's a real mess.
All right. Well, we're doing some good QA as we go here. By the way, I'm Chris Best's co-founder and CEO of Substack, and I'm here today with Gabriel Birnbaum. Is that how I say your last name, by the way?
That is correct.
Who is most famous as a former amazing growth designer at Substack Inc., but incidentally is also the founder of the hot AI startup Can of Soup. Thank you for coming on my Substack.
I'm glad to be here, man. It's very exciting. It's only you could match my shirt game.
Yes, this is. I'm cheating. This is my roster shirt, but I do love this one. It's become a daily driver. Okay, you have a really good question about engagement maxing, which I'm excited to talk about. Before we dive into that, could you give us like a 2 minute? What is Can of Soup? What are you up to? Tell us about your world these days.
Sure. So Kinesoup is an AI photo sharing app. So you can use it to make these funny AI photos of you and your friends in any imaginary situation. So I don't know, you can make a photo of me and Chris on the moon, comparing who has the best shirt. And you just type that and you get it. And so a fun new way to kind of interact with your friends.
It's an amazing app. If you don't have it for some reason, you should get it. Add me on there. I think I'm like at Chris or something. Uh, I've been having a ton of fun with it. Like I don't know. I still go in there and I'm like, just like, I had an idea. I want to like. Usually, it's either I had a fun idea for myself or I want to make fun of you, so I put you in a compromising situation and hope that you see it.
So yeah, those are always pretty good. My heart kind of stops whenever it's like, oh, Chris Best made a photo of you. I'm like, oh no. Well, what am I doing now?
What's your favorite can of soup that you've ever seen so far?
For me, it's the one of I think Vogue took that or Vanity Fair took that photo of you, Hamish and Jay, and Jasmine made it with Ben's face 3 times, and that one really did it for me. That's a fantastic one.
That was perfect. All right, engagement maxing. Tell me, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so basically, like, I keep hearing people talk about, and this is in relationship to Twitter, but also to Instagram, to a lot of social media right now. And the conversation kind of goes like this. Um, Someone says, well, I don't like, the posts I'm receiving. They don't feel very good to me. And then some executive in a suit and with charts is like, no, actually,
You
it
think the people
turns
on
out.
Instagram wear suits?
Oh yeah, of course. The Silicon Valley version of a suit, and it's basically like, well, actually, engagement actually works. You can see these metrics, how you spend more time in the app, how by all behavioral kind of ways to measure. I am more quote unquote engaged, whatever that means, to that content. Um, and I find the discrepancy really weird between how people feel about these products and how people use these products. I'm a big believer in revealed preferences, as in like what you do is actually much more who you are than what you say. However, I wonder if we're living in a world where this won't age well. I think a good analogy in my head that's been, and I sincerely don't know the answer to this, but like the analogy that's been in my head is television before kind of The Sopranos and kind of that era of prestige television. That people are like, oh, actually, you want dumber shows that are not fun, where the characters aren't developed. You want to like bring to the minimum so people can just follow mindlessly. And it turned out that actually that was partly true, but there was certainly like a giant like quote unquote market of media that wasn't being created just through that paradigm.
Very interesting. I'll tell you my theory on this that I've is like probably half cooked, half baked is when you get into looking at this closely, what you realize is that the convenient abstraction of the self as one coherent entity has started to break
Yeah.
down. And if I sort of think about myself and my own conscious being, there's kind of like the me that talks and uses language and tells stories and explains myself and says what I want and thinks things through and is like, a systems two thinker
Yeah.
in the whatever Kahneman framing. And then there's kind of like the lizard brain version of me that just does stuff. And different types of media and different types of product speak directly to different versions of myself. And I actually think that I've come to believe that I've been doing this podcast. Before I was doing the live version of this, I was doing kind of like the traditional, like you film a podcast, then you edit it. So I wound up doing like a little bit of video editing where I was
Yeah.
just kind of going through the thing of like, when do you cut? How do you focus? Like what looks good? What is the impact this media is having on me? And something I've come to believe is that both video and film as a medium and product development acts much more directly on the lizard brain. It kind of like
Yeah.
circumvents the conscious mind, and the version of you that is reacting to it most viscerally and powerfully, and the version that you have to like take into account and design for is actually the unconscious, emotional, kind of feelings driven meat mind of a human. And I think that's true of film, and I think it's true of product development. And in order for things to work, quote unquote work, they have to work for that. And this is why if you make a product that like sounds really good and has a
Yeah.
good pitch and is like the eat your vegetables product, that's like, don't you in principle want a product that is like only boring, good,
Instead of
high
scrolling,
fiber?
why don't you learn about
Instead of
Confucius?
scrolling, why don't you
Yeah.
learn a thing, right?
Yeah.
And but if you if you can make something that appeals to the rationalizing self, but it doesn't quote unquote work.
It works. Yeah.
And then the reverse is also true, which is you can make something that works that the conscious self actively dislikes. And I
Yeah.
think that's the thing that
Exactly.
you're experiencing. Like I have this on Twitter these days where I go on Twitter and then it's like, watch this video of this guy getting killed.
Yeah.
And then I watch it and I'm like, man, I hate that. I hated watching that. But the algorithm is like, yeah, but you watched it though. And I'm like,
Yeah. No,
I
exactly.
did. But I'm like, I'm not happy about it. And so I see the job of a good product designer kind of is almost like conspiring with the rational self against the
Because
base
any
self.
concessions, that's how I feel. It's like you actually want closer to like lizard as you can get, but you want some concessions. It's like
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
part of what you're doing, just forget about using a product just as a person.
yeah,
You're often kind of like hacking your own lizard brain. You're like, how am I going to get myself to work out? How am I going to get myself to read the thing I care about? There's sort of like a little bit of like self-management that goes into that. There's like, if I do my
yeah,
homework, I can have a snack or whatever. Like there's sort of like, there's that thing where like you as the putative master of your own self need to figure out how to sort of like hack your own lizard mind to doing to like, becoming the version of yourself that you want to be. An aspirational mode of design for a software product, I think, is to kind of like aid in that process and
yeah,
be like, so this is what I think, this is what I would love for Substack to be, is a place where it's like, yes, this quote unquote works. This is
yeah,
compelling to the lizard mind. You're going to go, it's going to be fun, it's going to be good, it's going to be compelling. And you're going to look back at that time you spent after and say, yeah, I'm glad I did that.
yeah.
And then I
Um,
think, and it's tricky to do both.
no, it is tricky, and it's like, and maybe part of that I'm reacting to is like the incompetence of some of these products, as in like they don't do the maxing that well. Like I think TikTok is the example where like actually like max the shit out of me. I don't care. Like it's amazing.
We both know what I'm here for.
Yeah, we know what I'm here for. And in a world where like I think Instagram to me which is my mortal enemy. It's always like, oh, like another cooking video, another like painting dripping video, and it's like sure, I'm watching this, but it's very replaceable in my brain, as in like I could do one of many million things that would make me feel better. So like it's almost like I'll do it, but whatever. And I think this is where like, yeah, I don't know. It's not a fun place to be in product wise or life wise, as in like if you're living kind of,
Yeah, if you're kind of just like plugging yourself into the slot machine, like,
exactly.
mindless. And I think that, like, I don't want to be too judgmental about that. I think some of that is people want some of that,
Oh
and some of
yeah,
that is
yeah,
okay.
of
Like,
course.
I'm gonna like goof around and scroll through a thing and like switch my brain off and watch a dumb reality TV show. Like, I'm not judging that,
No, no moral judgment.
but I do think there's
Do
like
that
a
better is my take. Is like that's the TikTok magic. Is like they just do that better.
yeah.
And it turns out that if you max it, it's actually good.
Yeah, I think that's good. On the other hand, if I had a friend and they're like, "Man, I'm spending 10 hours a day on TikTok," I'd be like, "It's probably not the right way to live your life."
I'd be like, why not 11? What can we do to get you to 11?
What can we do
11
to
and a
get to
half.
11? The other thing that I think is interesting in this vein is I think your own tastes and your own attention span and your own like lizard brain reaction to things are not totally fixed. I don't think. Like a big part of what you again, if you sort of like think of the process of becoming a person and self management, like there's a lot you can do to shape your own tastes, and that you know if you've ever had something that's become an acquired taste or you decided you wanted to get into something and then did something that felt like a little bit of work and a little bit unpleasant, but then on the other side, you were able to get into it and you feel like your life is richer for having developed a taste for whatever it is, wine instead of cotton candy or whatever the version of that is.
What's the latest taste you had to fight for?
Taste I had to fight for?
Yeah.
It's a good question. I haven't been doing too like there's some that I've conspicuously declined to fight for. There's a lot of people that really are into like wine. And I kind of like wine, and I'm sort of like anytime we're having wine, I'm like whatever's good, man. Like just I'm sort of I don't know.
Yeah.
It's something I could imagine if I had like a lot of time on my hands getting into, and I've just sort of like passed on that thing. Um, I do find like I still really enjoy reading physical books, but it's a thing that's like I have to kind of like push myself to get into it. It's not like a thing that naturally falls into my routine.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a late at night thing for me, books, because it's like you can
yeah,
actually like convince yourself, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have enough time to sit down and do it, and it's not fighting with other things. Um, but that's part of what if you're taking the highfalutin approach of like, what is the point of media? I think one of the points of media is the purpose of media is have an immediate effect on me. Right? I'm using it like a drug. It's like make me happy, make me titillated, make me you know, forget about the world, make me escape, make me enjoy this. And that's an important piece of it. But another important piece of it is like, who am I becoming? What
Yeah.
is this like? What is this, this training run that I'm putting myself through? What is it turning me into? And is that getting me closer to the kind of person that I want to be? Is it like, I think that second thing is the thing that the conscious mind ought to care about if it's smart. And then the thing that I feel like people are often rebelling against it in that the revealed preference says you like it, but you report that you don't like it. Is
Yeah.
sometimes just a mismatch between those. It's like I do like it. It's the same way that you could be addicted to a drug and report that you really want to quit it and still in practice keep using it.
Yeah.
Like that's a real that's revealed preference. There's some people who will say, I think Brian Kaplan says this, the like extreme
Yeah.
libertarian guy. He just says, "Oh, you're just lying. Like your revealed preference is actually just to use the drug until you
Just learn
die."
to code, bro.
But yeah, I think it's like a meaty philosophical question, and one that is not natural for a uh, number go up tech company
No,
thing to
exactly.
contemplate, unless
I,
it does so explicitly.
I love the way you put it because it's kind of like remove products. How would I want to treat myself? And it's like that's the maybe that's where the charts kind of but it's so hard. It's so hard to like. if you're making products, I'm as growth bro-y as they come. And like I would just neglect that. I would go full libertarian and like, oh, the number keeps going up. Maybe that's why it bothers me. It's because it's within me, to
Well, this
to
is,
think this way.
I mean, my answer to this is you kind of do like you want to put yourself in a situation where you can number go up, right? Like you
Yeah,
want to be able to make your thing work. And then
yeah,
my part of my theory on this is like, well, just pick the game that you're playing pretty well, right?
exactly.
Like if I think of this for Substack, if we put ourselves in a situation where we have to choose between something that we think is like good to do and something that's going to like make the business successful, like already we're in kind of like a pretty bad failure state. Because
Yeah,
even if we say, oh, we're going to be altruistic and like not make the business successful, well, then we just have an unsuccessful business that doesn't really like
yeah.
have
It
that much
doesn't
of an
do
impact on the
anything. You
world.
like pick up and go home.
And so I think the trick you want to do then is imperfectly as it may be, yoke the success of the number going up to the value you actually
Yeah,
want to create in the world, and make sure that those things like have some, give yourself some like, set up the rules of the game that you're playing. And in the Substack case, this is like, the way that we win is when people are paying money for things they actually value.
yeah,
Could we get you to pay for something that maybe is not in your best interest? Maybe a little bit. Like it's not like a perfect thing. It's not this a magical pill that makes everything, never have any problems. But as a general rule, saying, look, people are going to make their own choices about what they spend their money on. And if we
yeah,
help them make the decision that by their best lights is giving them value and keeping them, happy to the point where they're subscribing and voluntarily paying, like that actually does set up a pretty strong positive incentive such
yeah,
that if we do kind of like become growth bros and make number go up, we're on balance like
yeah. You're
actually
making
doing
things
something
great.
that's
Yeah,
worthwhile. And you let people leave too, right? So it's like if to the extent that we're creators are betting their creative endeavor on the thing, having exit rights where it's like, yeah, you actually could, if we turn into evil Substack and start to screw you, you can like take your ball and go. The fact that that option exists both means that people can trust us and come in the first place. And it means, again, that even if we are being, number go up growth bros, now we need to actually treat people well. So this is my answer, is you try to pick a game that you can play where
yeah,
when you win, the people that you're serving also win. And then
yeah.
once you're playing that kind of a game, I think that's about as good as it gets. I don't think there's
No, I
perfect.
totally agree. For us, it's like the silly. It's a very silly game, which is like, can you make more funny pictures? And like, there are many funny pictures that you can't make right now, or good pictures, better pictures, whatever that means. And doing that feels really straightforward and like unphilosophical, if that makes sense. Um, I think when you involve money, it becomes also way less philosophical. I think I almost don't envy as well the position that something like Twitter is on, which is like, what is the game that they're playing? Right? It's like, yeah, and some of those guys, they were figuring it out as they were building it. Like, I keep thinking about 2003. Do you know that like Zuck stopped working on Facebook for like 6 months to work on this thing called Wirehog?
No.
Oh, this is a crazy story. So basically, Sean Parker convinced them to do like a peer-to-peer sharing platform called Wirehog with some social features. And they stopped working on Facebook for 6 months to work on that. And it shipped, and they kind of like kept both things going for a while. They just thought that it would be more profitable. They didn't think at the time that Facebook would be this profitable. I think it is counterintuitive that human attention is worth that much. Like Facebook earns what, like $58 per US user per year. That's like a lot of money. Um, and yeah, I keep thinking about if I were in that position, I don't know that I could have predicted that like it would have been. This is to say, like, I think it's fine if those guys picked games that they were kind of figuring it out,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, that's you don't always know. You can't always plan in advance. You can't always predict. I think this is one of the like weird mind fucks of being a entrepreneur is you're sort of like playing a game and figuring it out at the same time. You're kind of just like you're constantly like in this state where your reach exceeds your grasp, and you're kind of both trying to win at the current thing and sort of trying to sense like, am I going in a direction that's going to work? Like, am I
Yeah.
near the thing? Is this like, it's an interesting dilemma.
I think the thing that keeps me sane is this is something that I took from you, which is the idea of what's the story.
Mm.
It like that, like if you like kind of like draft your thing as a novel, it feels like it makes sense. And it's like if the story kind of makes sense, you're usually like not that far off, and you can kind of like create different stories and so on. But
Very cool. Um, can I ask you what's next for Can of Soup, or is that top secret?
I could talk about it. You can ask me about Woody as well if you want. It's
What's next for Top of Soup and what Can of Soup, and why are you obsessed with Woody Allen? Did he do
okay.
it?
Um, for Can of Soup, we're making the a camera. We're making the next camera, I believe. And so what we're doing now is giving people the ability to not only create these magical photos through text, but also to change their real photos. So that's the teaser. Um, Woody Allen.
Hold on. I gotta ask one question. That sounds really cool. How is that different than like a Snapchat filter or a, one of the things that we're used to?
I think it's probably a continuation of that. There's much more you can do, right? If you kind of look at what a Snapchat filter does, it's kind of like it's always pasting things on top of a photo. And I actually think we got pretty far in like kind of expression with those with those constraints. But I think there's a lot more you can do when you can actually, truly, literally change anything about a photo. And I think they'll be very exciting. It's also you people get to create these things for each photo, let it evolve, and let it be customized for each photo. Um, so to me, it's almost like a continuation. That's why I feel like it's a kind of what Can of Soup is now is it's a bit like an anti-camera. Like you have a camera, and then you have the thing that you type, and it's the opposite. And to me, what we're doing next feels much more like the next iteration of what a camera is, which is like it's a capturing device for what you want to express, but also what you're living.
Sick. I'll look forward to it. In the meantime, everybody here should download the current Can of Soup app and make a photo of Gabriel. That's just whatever you want, whatever you think would be funny, and then post it to Substack Notes and tag us so that we can see what you come up with. Okay, Woody Allen. Why, besides the obvious, why are you obsessed with Woody Allen?
Wait, what is the obvious? I'm gonna make it say it.
Well, I mean, okay, you tell me. You tell me.
Well, I'm a Jew, It's I like
You?
Woody Allen. I think it's I find basically I like his movies. Like fundamentally, I think he's a genius. I think his movies are like a good mix of like lizard brain and challenging, kind of like intellectual brain. As in, they're easy to watch, but they're actually quite good and rewarding at their best, and they're easy to watch at their worst. At least, it's like they're never insufferable. Well, they're sometimes insufferable, but most of the time they're not insufferable. And I think it goes back to my thing of I think genius is hard to get. You gotta take it as you have it. So to me he represents that as well. I think if you kind of focus on, people are always like, well, but what about his relationship with the woman? And the story is he ended up dating his girlfriend's adoptive daughter when she was like 19. He was like 40 something. It's really weird, really bizarre.
It does sound weird on the face of it.
It's really bad. Still, they've been married 30 years. And I'm like, maybe they knew something we didn't. Like, this is the other thing that I'm like, I don't know. My favorite Woody Allen movie is Crimes and Misdemeanors, Sophia asked. So that's a good match point. If you find Woody Allen annoying, you want a movie without Woody Allen on it, Match Point is your go-to. But that's where it comes from. And hopefully I won't get canceled because cancel is over. That's
Let's. I'll publish this. We'll see what happens. All right, I got one more question for you, and then we should do this again in person one time at Substack or your place would be fun. What's it like being a founder?
um I feel like before founding, I kind of saw life kind of project by project. Like you're working a job and you're working on I'll be here for 3 years, 4 years. It's like, oh, I'm doing this side project, and it feels, and I feel like a lot of kind of weird existential insecurity came with that way of life. And I, at least for when I left Substack, one thing you wanted to ask me if I miss Substack, was obviously deeply. And I feel like designing kind of soup, it came from conversations we had, and it came also from the view of can I recreate this? And so it feels really deeply important to me, and it feels like my life's work. And as such, I feel a sense of security and like self security that I didn't know that I would get. That was the most surprising part. And so it feels great to feel self secure about the work you do, even when it's like blowing up and it's weird, when it's fucking falling down and it's weird, like everything in between. It have that security kind of like protects me from the explosions, kind of.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Well, thank you for joining the live. We'll talk soon again. Thanks, Gabriel. Subscribe to his Substack and download Can of Soup.
Thank you, Chris.
Cheers.